Asia, sometimes conquering peoples vastly superior in numbers by their fierce energy, and then establishing themselves as their aristocratic ruling class, and then perpetuating their rule with their political abilities. You see, the Nordic is at once democratic and aristocratic. Among his own kind, he is democratic, profoundly individualistic and touchy about his personal rights. Neither he nor his fellows will tolerate tyranny, but wherever the Nordic establishes himself among other races, he is extremely aristocratic. Feeling himself the ruler and the superior, he prides himself on his race and seeks to guard the purity of his blood. This is where racism comes from and why it will never completely go away. Throughout Europe today, the old aristocratic class tends to be of Nordic origin. Even in countries where the Nordic element has been mainly bred out of the population, what little Nordic blood remains is found chiefly concentrated in the old upper-class families. There are many kinds of evidence to support the idea that Nordic Aryans were the primary ruling elite of many ancient cultures from around the world. In the Americas, the feathered serpent sky god, whom they all credited with giving them their cultures, was described universally as a white man with strong formation of body, broad forehead, large blue or emerald eyes, reddish blonde hair, and a flowing beard, dressed in a long white robe reaching his sandaled feet, holding a staff and sometimes having a jaguar at his feet. This white man, whom the Incas called Kontiki Viracocha, and his merry band of white gods that they called the Viracocas, were credited with building the ancient city of Tiahuanaco before he and his assistants departed, saying that they would return one day. Each civilization had a similar tale, and depending on the location as to the reason why he left, but regardless, he always said that he would return one day. Centuries later, when Francisco Pizarro appeared, the Incas were an easy conquest due to the fact that they believed him to be one of these white gods. As did the Aztecs when Hernando Cortez appeared in Mexico with his conquistadors. They believed him to be Quetzalcoatl. The civilization of the Incas of Peru, like that of the Aztecs of Mexico, developed later than other ancient cultures, but their imperial forms of social organization had obviously been handed down for many generations. Incan society was tightly organized. At the head was the supreme Inca, who was considered a direct descendant of the sun. His rule was absolute. He was the head of state, commander of the armies, and the authority for all taxes and laws. His title was passed on from one generation to the next so that the noble lineage remained pure and genetically intact. He and his wife, who was also his blood sister, were considered to be in a direct genealogical line that led back to the gods. According to the Incan creation account, the creator Viracocha sent out two of his children, Manco Capac and Mama Abuelo, to gather the natives into communities and teach them the arts of civilized life. These two children, brother and sister, became husband and wife so that they could maintain the purity of the Creator's bloodline. The Supreme Inca had to carry forward this tradition by marrying his blood sister. Though he kept concubines, only the offspring of his sister could produce the next Supreme Inca. The title was passed down from the father to the eldest son of the Inca queen. It was all a carefully controlled genetic operation, for the queen was selected from the best of the Supreme Inca's sisters. Incan cultures did not condone incest in the society in general, but the royal Incan family was permitted to intermarry and have children to ensure the purity of noble blood. This tradition is mirrored in Egypt, where incestuous activities were practiced regularly among the royalty for the same reasons. The first pharaoh, named Osiris, and his wife Isis were in fact twin brother and sister, and said to be born the son of Geb and Nut, or the Egyptian gods of earth and sky, symbolically meaning a mix of an earthly race and sky god DNA. What is more, a quick examination of the mummified remains of Egyptian royalty and noble-class families reveals a startling number of Nordic Aryan features, including hair color and facial structure. This, however, is not the most startling discovery found in an ancient Egyptian or Incan tomb. Get this, they have found the carefully mummified remains of what clearly appear to be alien graves. In a special room in the back of a private museum in Arequipa, Peru, is a strange mummy. Museum records indicate that the mummy came from a group of locals who made excavations at the location of a grave in an almost inaccessibly high cave in the mountains near Tres Cruces that they believe the Incas had hidden, and which was decorated with strange snake symbols. In Egypt, archaeologist and retired professor Dr. Victor Lubeck found the body of a perfectly preserved, carefully mummified alien buried in a hidden compartment of a small ancient monument dating back more than 2,000 years from the dynasty of Sesostris II. The details and photographs of the find were provided by an insider source from the Egyptian Antiquities Department under the condition of anonymity. This anonymous messenger reports that the discovery has caused great consternation among Egyptian officials who want to keep it hidden until they come up with a plausible explanation for the strange mummy. He says the government has consulted a number of respected archaeologists, but to date none can explain the finding, and that every expert who has seen the mummy has concluded that it is not of earthly origin, and that there is a sense that this is an alien who somehow ended up advising an Egyptian king. This is probably because inscriptions on the tomb of the mummy showed that he was a counselor named Osirinet, meaning star or sent from heaven. This is very interesting because Sesostris II, as a Nordic Aryan, had great contempt, like his father, for the Nubians of South Africa and viewed them as vile. And during his reign he officially forbade Negroes from entering Egypt. And then his son, Sesostris III, conducted 4 campaigns against the blacks, with the final conquest of Nubia in 1840 BC. He constructed several forts at strategic points on either side of the Nile, making Nubia a permanent colony of Egypt, and erected the world's first whites-only sign with the first Semna Stela inscription recounting the subjugation of Nubia. Under dragon bloodline direction and rule, each culture proceeded to make huge advancements in all areas of society in a very short amount of time, and gave all of the credit for their amazing accomplishments to the ancient sky gods who gave them the gifts of civilization. They quickly developed the various arts and sciences, and repeatedly demonstrated that they understood and possessed various types of advanced knowledge that they should not have had or known. The ancients worldwide used advanced engineering techniques to build megalithic monuments, including numerous dolmens, menhirs, pyramidal structures, and sacred temples all across the globe, many of which shared the important symbolic feature of triptych architecture. This ancient worldwide triptych tradition has endured through the ages and continues to be widely utilized today in many modern sacred structures, including those of various Western esoteric secret orders like the Freemasons, Skull and Bones, and the Shriners. This feature is also shared by many important religious structures as well, including several of both Catholic cathedrals and Islamic mosques. The most important sacred structures were placed on specific locations along Earth's natural energy lines, and especially where they meet an energy is strongest, called vortices. Not only did the ancient people use this advanced knowledge to build unbelievable structures, but they also built tens of thousands of miles of amazing aqueducts, canals, bridges, and roads all over the ancient world. Some, like the pre-Inca highway system, went in a direct line through impossible barriers, crossing canyons and swamps, and piercing mountains with tunnels that are still in use today. The ancients utilized many advanced construction techniques. Among these are the widespread use of a superior form of cement, to the use of enormous copper clamps, gold nails, and silver bolts weighing tons, and even a softening procedure for hard rock, enabling it to receive hand or foot imprints by pressure only. Ancient texts in Tibet record that in very ancient times, during a golden age, the people were wise and skillful and built great houses of crystal. These ancient people not only built amazing structures, many several stories tall, but they also decorated them elaborately too, outside and in. These buildings not only looked good, they had many of what we consider today to be modern conveniences like heat and air conditioning, and hot and cold running water, and indoor plumbing, and sewage removal systems. Ancient civilizations were able to achieve a lot of their amazing feats because they possessed a high degree of understandings of complex mathematical knowledge. The accuracy of the ancients to the point of infinitesimal fractions is enough to make even the most die-hard skeptic stop and think. It allowed the ancients to do unbelievable things like construct the Great Pyramid perfectly square to within 3/10,000%, while fitting enormous blocks together with the accuracy of 1/100th of an inch, or pinpoint the solar year in Mexico to within an accuracy of 1/20,000th of a day. Ancient astronomers even used algebra to work out the position of celestial bodies at any given time. In fact, all the available evidence suggests that they had an intimate understanding of the universe and possessed advanced astronomical knowledge. This is demonstrated by the fact that earlier civilizations knew things about the universe that there is no possible way that they could have known without some external help. They not only knew that the planets in our solar system float in space and revolve around the sun, they also knew the distance to and the size of each planet, as well as various aspects about them that we could not find out without modern technology, like the existence of the bands of Jupiter, or the fact Uranus is the only planet that presents both poles to the sun. In fact, some, like the Sumerians, even say there is another planet beyond Pluto in an elongated elliptical orbit that only reaches the inner solar system roughly every 3,600 years, from which their ancestors came. An old Sumerian map confirms this and shows the sun and 11 planets, counting the moon, all by size. The story of just such a planet is corroborated by a 3,600-year-old text recorded by Egyptian and Celtic authors called the Colburn Bible. It was known to the Egyptians and Hebrews as the Destroyer. The Celts called it the Frightener. It is also known today as Wormwood, Nibiru, Planet X, and Nemesis. The winged disc symbol was used by the Sumerians and many others like the Egyptians, Persians, and Assyrians, and was originally a representation of this planet. There is now good reason to believe that this secret planet, Planet X, does exist. On December 31st, 1983, scientists announced that they have located a body in orbit beyond Pluto, and on March 27, 2009, it was captured on Soho. It appeared briefly as the winged globe of legend. Today, like many other sacred symbols, the winged disc has lost its original esoteric meaning and is highly commercialized instead, essentially hiding in plain sight. The Sumerians' belief that their ancestors came from and inhabit other planets is not an isolated historical occurrence. Actually, according to several ancient cultures, like those of ancient India and Greece, there exist many other Earths with inhabitants. In fact, most civilizations claimed our ancient ancestors came from various other star systems, including Orion and Sirius, or like the Mayan people who lived in Tikal, and many others, the Pleiades. Their 7 main temples, or pyramids, are perfectly aligned with and mimic the star map of the Pleiades. The significance of the star system is illustrated at various locations on this planet, and this is not just a coincidence. Most every civilization has a myth concerning the Pleiades, or the 7 sisters, and like in Tikal, you can find the Pleiades identically displayed by structures in Egypt, Rome, Ethiopia, and Iran. It can even be found at Stonehenge and on the Freemasons' first-degree tracing board, but the most peculiar place it has been found is in the Cydonia region of Mars. The ancients not only knew amazing things about the expansive outer universe and space, but they were also very intimately knowledgeable about the inner universe and the space inside the human body and how it works. Ancient medical practice, it appears, was more than folk herbs. Rather, medicine and surgery were fantastically advanced millennia ago, as evidenced by surviving ancient medical and surgical textbooks, diagnostic manuals, and pharmaceutical encyclopedias. Surviving evidence shows that they understood about things like the nervous system and metabolism, and that they successfully performed various complex surgeries, including heart and brain, while using instruments as good as, if not superior to, what is used today. Written records indicate the ancients used some modern techniques, including immunizations, radiation therapy, blood transfusions, x-rays, and according to Egyptian and Indian texts, they had wonder drugs for incurable diseases. In Colombia, they found a large amount of strange artifacts, including what appear to be tools and medical instruments, but they do not fit in any existing pre-Columbian culture. Being composed of ludite, an exceptionally hard stone with a flaky and delicate structure, they are impossible to replicate today, yet they are at least over 6,000 years old. The most important piece found here is called the genetic disc. Clearly depicted on it are a number of incredible images showing genetic or biological information, including illustrations of microscopic human biology, as well as the stages of fetal development and sexual reproduction. On one side shows the microscopic biology of human eggs, one with and another without spermia. On the other side are presentations of a fetus at different sizes and stages, eventually ending up with what looks like a child, as well as other humanoid figures. There is enough evidence, like the unmistakable Egyptian hieroglyphic depictions of light bulbs and the numerous ancient batteries found in Baghdad, that we must now regard the past use of lighting and electricity as a historical certainty. There is also a document from India that contains a detailed description, not only of how to construct an electric battery, but also how to utilize this battery to split water into 2 gases, the electrolysis of water into hydrogen and oxygen. The existence of electric and lighting devices in ancient times cannot be questioned, and yet, until 1890, we supposedly possessed only candles, torches, and oil lamps. It is easy to think that this was always the case, because the Greeks and Romans used torches and oil lamps for illumination. And wherever passageways are still standing between ancient buildings, traces of smoke can be found on the ceilings. How then do we explain the fact that no trace of smoke is found in any Egyptian pyramid or in the subterranean tombs of the pharaohs, which are beautifully carved and painted with the precision and delicacy requiring the equivalent of daylight? Perpetual lamps that functioned indefinitely without oil or any product that was burned or consumed were apparently pretty universal in the ancient world. They have actually been found in underground tombs, vaults, and dwellings around the globe. Touching them was prohibited under pain of provoking an explosion capable of destroying an entire town.